Well, I've been promising it for a long time, and finally we're going to talk about 3D. Yeah, the world's gone 3D crazy, at least the movie business has. And you know what? I haven't seen one yet. Nope, haven't been to see any of them. So, last time I saw a 3D movie, it was Creature from the Black Lagoon. And no, I didn't see it when it first ran. They had it at the college when I was there. Anyway. I didn't realize there was controversy about 3D. Yeah, it's a gimmick. Who doesn't know it's a gimmick? I've always thought it was a gimmick. And honestly, when anytime anyone said 3D, I only had one thought come to mind. Exactly. So when I started reading that, oh no, it's all about the depth. Don't expect things flying at the camera anymore. We don't do that anymore. Oh, please. That's the whole point of 3D. Why have a gimmick like that if you're not going to give the audience the payoff by having things fly at the camera? Well, anyway, it's fun to play with. And you don't need a super fancy 3D rig to make it happen. Now, there's a lot of ways to do it, and I want to show you one that's real simple. But before I do that, let me show you a couple of other things. Now, I started experimenting with it, and I think if you've seen some of my other videos here on YouTube, you'll see the things that I tried and had middling success, actually no success with. The first was a rig that I built with two cameras. Now, the problem, of course, as you can see, they're pretty far apart because they're such big cameras. The biggest problem is that they're both SD cameras and not HD cameras. Well, right now I can't afford two HD cameras, so I'm just not going to be playing with that. Mainly, I experimented with it, I wasn't wild about it, and decided to move on. The next thing that I got was a gizmo that's called a beam splitter, and I'm going to show it in a close-up. Hopefully you'll be seeing that right now. What a beam splitter does, it goes on the end of a lens. You just attach it to the end of the lens on your camera, and it gives you, obviously, two images via these mirrors on the front through the camera, a left and a right. And for close-up work, it's not bad. The biggest problem I've had with this one is I need a wider lens and possibly a faster lens to cut down the amount of split in the middle. It's difficult to describe, but it isn't exactly perfect. It's not what I really had anticipated. Now, I bought this one. You can find them on eBay. It's called an SK1. At least that's the American, or English rather, translation, SK1, because here it all is in its Soviet glory. Is good Soviet beam splitter, da? Well, it is. And it's called whatever the heck that says. And I love that they include the instructions. Yeah, they include the instructions. Anyway, the beam splitter is really cool, and it's not a real expensive thing. In fact, if you can get one for around $100 that comes with that really cool Helios Soviet lens that I'm always banging on about. So it was a good deal, and it's something we can play with later. I'm still experimenting with it. With any luck, we'll have some fun as that comes along. Now, the next part, I want to show you how to take one camera, in this case, our favorite little guy, the T2i, and turn the video that you get out of the camera into 3D. Now, is it really 3D? No. It's simulated 3D. And you're going to need some of your little William Castle type 3D glasses. I'm also going to show you a cool place where you can buy these for cheap. Now, let's take a look at some footage that I shot in the woods down near the river yesterday or day before, whenever this video is taking place. That doesn't really matter, does it? Anyway, let's just take a look at what the raw footage looks like of the camera going through the woods. Okay, now, you see how that looks. Now, get out your glasses. Remember, red on the left, blue on the right. You know what that does when you've got nothing but light? Ugh. Anyway, take a look at it now after we've done our simulated 3D. Now you may ask, how did you do that? Here's how. Now I really hate doing it this way, but I don't know, I can't get my screen recording thing to work. I'm going to have to use the camcorder. Unfortunately, it's got a pretty good microphone on it, so let's hope for the best. Now I've called up CompositeLab this time. This will work equally well in Vision Lab or Effects Lab because we're not really doing anything serious, but I thought I'd go ahead and use CompositeLab because it's the one I use most of the time. Now, here's a note. You can also do this in After Effects, and I'm pretty sure you could do it with just about any editing program. But we're going to stick with CompositeLab, and I think you'll find once you see how I do it here, you can adapt it to other programs. Now we're going to choose a video clip. Let's take that one of us walking through the woods. As you can see, the settings come up, and let's open it. And now we're going to want to shrink that down a little bit where we can work on it. And you can see it's on the timeline, and it's over here in our toolbox as well. Now the first thing I want to do is bring in a second copy, and that's going to be our left side. Now as you can see, there's two of them on the timeline, one right dead on top of the other. Now that's not going to work, is it? No, but I'll show you what we do. Here we go to the left one, which is the top one. Now we go up here to the upper right where the composite setup is. Now right now it's called normal, which means that we can only see that top layer. But we're going to turn that into screen where really both layers are visible, and that's why it looks so light. Now let's do our grading before we do anything else. Alright, now what we want to do is go back up here. We selected grade, by the way, down here in the lower left. Now we'll go back up here to the upper right and get our color balance. And for this one, we're going to turn off green and turn off blue. All right, now look how red the thing looks. All right, now let's go down to what will become our right side and select grade, color balance, and then we turn off the red. And now we've got kind of a teal look to it. Let's go back up here and highlight our left side video, and see, it still looks like the same video. That's because all the colors are kind of in balance. But here comes the trick. We're going to go to animation, and we're going to shift this rascal over to the left. Now look back up here. I'm going to have to point to it physically. Up here in the upper right on the quad, it shows it at 960, which is the center point for this video. We're going to move it to 940, which shifts it just 20 pixels to the left. Now you start to see that weird look that we're used to with 3D. If you put on your glasses, you would notice that it's starting to look like 3D, but we're not done yet. Here is the biggest trick of all. Now let's go down here to the timeline and highlight the timeline, and let's move one frame. Now you see our cursor tool is on pointer, and that will drag our timeline anywhere we want it. Well, the only place we're going to drag it is one frame over, and that's it. Now let's hit I to set our endpoint, and from here on out we're essentially done. All we have to do is render. If we went through this, we would begin to see, and if you had your 3D glasses on, you would really notice the 3D effect. It's just that one frame shift, and that's what makes the difference. And then you can run through your render settings. You can put it out as an MOV or an AVI file, and when you put it back on your timeline. Now one thing you'll have to do when you put it back in your editing program, either Vegas or whatever you use, you're going to have to increase the size, and I'm going to have to point at the screen with my hand again, sorry, but this little blue line over here is going to be visible. So if you increase the size of your image, you could do it here, but it's a lot easier to do it in your editing program. Just increase the overall size of the rendered project just enough to cover those 20 pixels. And that's really all there is to it. And when it's done, boom, you've got yourself instant 3D. No, it isn't really 3D, but it sure looks good, doesn't it? And finally, I was talking about these glasses. Yeah, I got a bunch of them. Eventually, we're going to have some kind of a 3D event. For somebody that thinks it's a gimmick, I know I'm investing an awful lot into it, but really not. I mean, I'm not spending a heck of a lot. There's a seller on eBay, and that should be showing up now on the screen, that has these glasses. You can buy 70 pairs of them for about $15.50 with shipping included. That ain't bad. That's about 22 cents a pair. So with all of that, I'm just telling you, you can do this stuff on the cheap, have some fun with it, and you're not going to necessarily get the, well, you know. Yeah, that. And if not, you can at least have that depth that's all the rage now with 3D. And, you know, enjoy it while you can, because I have a feeling that just like every other time that 3D's come and gone, this'll go as well. So, have fun with it. Do like I always say, just keep shooting and make something creative. Let's see it.